Today my guest is Twila Belk.
Keep your weapon at your side, your arm.
Our circumstances don't change who God is. They show us who God is.
Be strong. Pierce the darkness with the light as you go along. Living with one foot in heaven, breaking the enemy's power. In the strength of Jesus, we can stand in the darkest hour. Living with one foot in heaven, ready when he calls our name. For believers to live is Christ, to die is only gain.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today my guest is Twila Belk. Now she and Cec Murphey have written a book called Because You Care, Spiritual Encouragement for Caregivers. Now you have been a caregiver, haven't you?
I am, and I
still
have.
are.
That's right.
Wow.
I still am. I never expected that would be my role one day. As a speaker, a writer, conference director, mom, wife, and then I've added caregiver to the titles that I carry.
Wow, how do you do it all?
Well, one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, sometimes 1 minute at a time.
Wow.
And how do you answer a question like that? You just
I don't
do
know.
it with the strength that you get from God day by day.
Right. Okay. Well, share with us the circumstances that gave you that title of caregiver.
Well, there are different circumstances, but the most recent one is that my husband he was diagnosed with a rare muscle disorder called inclusion body myositis. He went to Mayo Clinic. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. The neurologist first thought maybe he could have had Lou Gehrig's disease because it presented in the same way. But he was diagnosed with inclusion body myositis, and it's rare. There's no treatment or cure. It's a progressive thing. And so you get that kind of news and he might look okay now, but eventually it'll just kind of start wearing on him, and he has no grip strength at all. He's lost most of his quad strength, and eventually it'll progress to just the stages that it takes with a walker and wheelchair and on and on. And so that's the most recent thing, and couple that with his bipolar and other things, it just...
Are there days when you just feel like you could lose hope?
Well, yeah, I think we all have that, regardless of what our circumstances are. So, and that's just being part of, that's normal life for people, because our circumstances can be crazy sometimes, and they can be hard, and you wonder how you're going to make it. But I've learned over the years, because I've learned who God is and how big God is, and I've learned that I need to do whatever I can to get my eyes on Him. Because if we focus on our circumstances, they become overwhelming to us and they take over. But if we focus on God, He becomes what is magnified in our life, and we see what He can do. And so I say, our circumstances don't change who God is.
Right.
They show us who God is. And God has shown me who He is in so many ways. And it's like, wow, He's there and He cares.
And is that what you tell people who say, I can't possibly do what you're doing?
Well, you don't know what you can do until you're actually in that circumstance. So,
That's
true.
He gives us the grace as we need
That's
it,
right.
doesn't he?
That's right. And when you need it, it's there, and you're in that bubble of grace. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, what has given you the most encouragement when you think about the way your life has changed?
The most encouragement. Well,
Or when you have moments of sadness?
I like to start praising. I like to get in the Word. I read the Psalms sometimes. I call that the Psalm Balm. I know that sounds crazy,
Yeah,
but
it's not crazy.
because it talks about David is pouring out his heart and he's crying out to God. And by the end of those Psalms, he's turned it around and he's praising God.
Yes.
So I say, it's okay. It's okay to mark in your Bible. You can underline it. You can highlight things and go back to those, because God has a way of speaking to us through His Word. And praise music is so important. So if you can just immerse yourself in praise and try to, as much as possible, grab a grateful heart, have a grateful heart, even one thing, just so you're getting your focus on God. And I know it takes effort to do that sometimes, and then you need people who can support you, you need good friends who care, other people who maybe understand your circumstances and can come alongside you and hold you up.
Yeah, that's good. Well, what are some ways that you can read your loved one who has a handicap or whatever it is that causes them to need your care?
Well, as Cec writes about that in the book, and one way that he can see how Shirley is doing is by looking in her eyes. He's gotten to the point where he can really read her eyes. And I remember my mom used to tell me that she could read anything about a person. I remember going to a concert for Johnny Cash one time, and she said, he's not feeling well today, because she could read the eyes. And the Bible talks about the eyes being the mirror to the soul. So Cec knows by reading her eyes how she's doing, and he'll ask her questions like that. And I can tell, my husband doesn't talk a lot about what he's going through. He's pretty silent about that. But I can tell by the way he walks, by how he carries himself, how, just the body language. So as you grow with a person and know that person, you just know what signs to look for.
Well, how do you balance your desire to protect your loved one with their desire to remain independent? That I know is really tough.
Oh my husband thinks that he can do everything that he's always done, but and it's really hard for me, because as his wife, I want to protect him, and as his caregiver, I don't want him to do things he shouldn't be doing, because that's going to take time. It's like, so you're left in this corner. What do I do? Because he wants to be who is made to, and he needs to be able to do that. Because I had the tendency to say, don't do that. You're carrying too much. You're only supposed to carry this, or I'll do things like that. And should you really be doing that? And I've learned that I can't. It's a struggle. I still work with that, because I'm a mother too. I want to mother him, yet I want to protect him too. So it's really hard. But they need to be independent, and they need to be able to make their own decisions. And so that's something I have to really hold back on sometimes, and just let him do what he's able to do.
And sometimes it actually creates more work for you when they do that.
And that's me. See, I have enough work the way it is. and that's the real struggle in me. It's like, as the caregiver, it's like, I don't have time for that. I still have to do this and this and this. But so it's just kind of a crazy thing. And but you don't want to take the life away from him. He still has to have something to live for and something to do and look forward to. And eventually he'll understand what his limitations are and maybe make decisions in that way.
Yeah. Well, you write in the book, don't let the person you love turn into the disease. What do y'all mean by that?
Well, that's a good question, Jeanne. Just like what we were saying, with how much do you allow him to do, well, you don't want to introduce, this is my husband, he has inclusion body myositis. That's not his identity. He is still my husband, and he's still a man of honor, and you want to protect his honor. And so don't let him say, he's just, instead of him being a person with a name, he's with the name of a disease or whatever. It's kind of like with Alzheimer's patients or whatever, or any kind of sickness. You're in room it's the person in room whatever, and they become that disease, and you want to, there's still a person who has a lot of value and who has so much to offer and needs to be loved, and still the image of God. That's right. And so we need to be careful with our words. I think our words are very important, and we just have to train our mind.
And I think it's really easy when someone has dementia or Alzheimer's to forget that they still need their dignity, even when they're not remembering.
And they're a person who has lived an incredible life, and people need to know that. So, there's so much there. So we really need to be careful and to honor them as much as possible.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if people can see this on the film, but this is an absolutely beautiful book. It's got gorgeous pictures. It has short chapters. I guess you could call them chapters.
Yeah, they're
That so it makes it easy for someone who is a caregiver to read in small sections of time that they might be able to catch. And I found it very encouraging, since my father is in that situation of having dementia, and my mom's his caregiver, and I could really identify with a lot of the things in that book. I think you guys did a wonderful job, and it's soothing too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it brings you and it lets us see what you guys have gone through as caregivers, and also the dignity of the people that you're caring for, and at the same time, I think it's like empathy. You feel empathy when you read it.
We're kind of transparent in this. I mean, this is real life for us. It's hard. It's not easy, but when you can share that with other people, and there's just something with that, and share the comfort. So this is spiritual encouragement for caregivers.
Yes.
We offer some practical tips at the end of the book as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think for caregivers, it's just really nice to know that somebody else knows what you're feeling.
Yes.
And
there's
you
something
definitely
about
see
that. There's something about that.
There is. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, Twila. You're just wonderful.
Thank you, Jeanne. Thanks for having me.